Yo, what's up guys, Joho here, and today we're doing T4's on a budget for Fantastic Four. Just appearing now, yeah, here I am, Invisible Man. But no more me knittering around. Let's roll that intro and get on to it. Welcome back. So, yeah, no more me nattering on. We're going to go straight to it. But just before we do get into it, I'm going to pop up now quickly on the screen the T4's on a budget stuff and just go over what each one mean again, just for people who may get confused or something as what quite I mean by them. So obviously a hell yes means a yes definitely for T4's on a budget. That being a no is unfortunately a shame, and that's why I changed it from a hell no, because a hell no sounds like it's rubbish and shouldn't do it. But I definitely think you should do it, so I put it as that be a no. For war only means that let's say this team is really good, it doesn't necessarily need this for other modes, but sometimes you might struggle on war against certain teams that they should be taking out. Like for instance, Fantastic Four should be taking out most teams because they're just that top of the offense for war. So with that in mind, let's say you're struggling on certain teams that you're like, wait, I've seen other people take these out, or they should take them out, what's going on? It probably needs these putting into them, and if you're going heavy into this team, definitely do it. For instance, like black Inhumans might need one or two specifically for war, just so they beat like the Hydra team, stuff like that. I'm pretty sure I had Yo-Yo's passive on there, because they work as a 5-team on war. Definitely worth the extra focus to make sure those Hydra teams don't hit too hard back against them. So definitely worth it in that regard. That's what I mean by that. Same as raid only. Only used in not necessarily the whole team for a raid team, but just those individual characters can be used in raids. So sometimes if you're using that character in raid, definitely do it. If you're not using that character in raid, it's not worth doing. DD3 is the same. If you're using that character in Dark Dimension 3, definitely do these T4's, or it's recommended for me. I recommend you to do them, but not necessary if you're not using that character in DD3. That's what I mean by each one of these. Only if you're using that team heavy in those certain modes, definitely do them, but it isn't overall necessary for this team to be absolutely badass. So we're going to go straight down to Namor. I haven't done too much in my Fantastic Four. Just haven't got round to them. I haven't really got the resources at the moment. But I have talked to a few people and done a little research into their speed stats and stuff. So I kind of know what I'm talking about. Or I like to think I do, anyway. But Namor isn't got any apart from his Giganto and Impervious Rex, which obviously are both for war. You do not need these in Blitz or other modes, but if you really want to take out big ass teams, I would recommend definitely doing his ultimate, because it goes from obviously 250% damage to all targets to 300% damage to all targets, so nothing to sniff at. Then on War Offense, you clear, instead of 3 positive effects, you clear all the positive effects, which on war you can come across a lot of teams with a lot of positive effects. So definitely worth doing, and you reduce the speed bar from 40% of all enemies to 50%, which is just really helpful. Any speed bar manipulation or slows, speed ups are obviously always good in a turn-based game. So definitely worth doing that for war if you want to go heavy into them. So next we're going to go into Impervious Rex, which again definitely is good because you gain an extra 10% damage, an extra 10% armor, and on War Offense on spawn you apply offense up and deflect to all Fantastic or allies and self, and that is instead of to a random 3 Fantastic Four allies. And on War Offense, all Fantastic Four allies gain an extra 10% damage, including Namor himself gains that extra 10% damage. So again, very worth doing for that war, but not necessary off war for anything else, I would say. So that's Namor done. We're going to go now over to the main Fantastic Four characters, because Namor's kind of just like a rolling fifth, kind of like a Punisher on Defenders and stuff like that. But we're going to go Invisible Woman. We don't want to do Cosmic Rays. It's just it's just a normal basic, nothing special in that. On this one, it's definitely worth doing because you clear 2 negative effects from self and all allies. That's instead of from the 3 most injured allies. So if you're using her on the team, worth doing to make sure everyone loses their negative effects, as well as off the team. It's to all allies, so it's not just specific for this team. She works well in other teams very much, and they apply stealth to self and all allies, so that's not leaving anyone kind of like uncovered apart from I think herself, because obviously I think it does that and then she then loses it. From what I've seen, it sometimes works like that. I've seen that in arena quite a few times. If not, I could be wrong, but either way, it's definitely worth having that, so it's not leaving someone like too exposed kind of thing. But after that, you then got psionic shields, which again, you apply offense down for 2 turns to all enemies instead of 3 random enemies. Those random enemies could be Ultron minions, they could be Greg on the Asgardians. You don't want it doing just, or a Greg in a tank or something like that. Imagine that, and leaving like the big hitters still without it. You want this to make sure everyone has it, and you all have it for 2 turns. And then you get an extra 10% character's max health, which means she gets even more, 10% character max health as barrier. So that's 40% in total instead of 30. She has got a big health pool, very worth doing it, just so to make sure your team is protected, and it can be a pain in the ass. And with Black Bolt now being fixed, he doesn't double tap with barrier, so she is a lot more viable now as well in that mode. So we're going to now go into Hard Light, which I say if you're using her in DD3, which I found that a lot of people are going to be using her in DD3, I would recommend doing this one because you get a bit more extra damage for the retaliation when someone's attacked with barrier, which will be should be all your team once she's used her ultimate. And then you get the extra 10% max health, which I find very useful, just because in DD3 you want as much sustain as you can. They do hit like ton trucks, so having that little bit extra may save one of your toons on that mode. So it's definitely, I think, worth doing for Dark Dimension 3 only. It's not so much for the other modes. I don't think it's necessary. Definitely not when you're on a budget. So that is Invisible Woman done. We are now going to go over to Human Torch. Human Torch was a struggle, so it was between Flame On or Heating Up. Flame On is very good if you were wanting to do an extra one in this team. This is where I recommend putting it next after the first 3. But on turn it flips 2 negative effects instead of 1, and you gain extra damage there as well. So it is a good one, but I find Invisible Woman does kind of negate this a little bit with her cleanse on her second turn with a special, or first turn, because you're obviously playing them, so you can choose. So I find that a bit negated. That's why I chose for Heating Up instead, because you apply offense up for 2 turns, so it means he has his offense up for his ult, which he wouldn't unless you have this in his T4. So it's definitely worth doing to make sure he has that offense up ult. And yeah, it then hits so much harder, obviously. And you apply offense up to all Fantastic Four allies, so it does help this team out a lot instead of just a random 3. And you gain an extra 50% damage for this attack, which this attack can with his speed. When you use Loki, Captain Marvel kind of combo, he is a good replacement for Captain Marvel because he does hit really hard with offense up, and he's fast, so he just goes after Loki. So it does work really well instead of. Or if you're hitting a really hard character, you can use both, but I can't see anyone surviving just one of these guys' hits. The Thing has got a lot of good ones, but they all just are damage. He's just a really heavy hitter, so I wouldn't say worth putting any into him. Then with Mr. Fantastic, which is our last up, he has got some really good ones. He's got his Tensile strength, which I don't think is worth it too much. You just get a bit more damage and chain, but he's not a heavy hitter. He's mainly here to give the other Fantastic Four allies assists and stuff like that on each turn. This one I would say would be after, if you were going to put, like, let's say you've done the 4. Well, I've done suggested 3. Then let's say you did the Human Torch's 4th, and then wanted another, and you really wanted to go ahead in on this team. I would say this one probably next. Maybe the Invisible Woman. It'd be between them, but obviously make sure you get those Namor ones in as well if you're struggling on more. But this one, it goes from that 50% chance stun to the 100%, which can really save like this team. Let's say someone's about to hit heavy and you want to get that stun. This guarantees he will get that stun. I find it very unlikely my 50% chance that I've got ever hits. It never seems to actually choose that one, but that's no surprise there. It's kind of like dodging with Spider-Man. Just doesn't happen, does it? So I would recommend that one on that level, but by all means not up there on this budget one. This one is just damage. He doesn't hit, I don't think, that hard, so I wouldn't recommend that one. And then for science, it is really good. I was on the edge of getting this one because you get the extra 10% focus and resistance for self and all allies. But they already have pretty decent focus and resistance, so it's not massively urgent. I don't find this is like life or death kind of for this team by all means. And the extra random enemy that gets chosen and has a positive effect move is really good. But again, not the bee's knees all kind of thing there. But yeah, that is this whole team done. So hope you enjoyed it. If you've got any recommendations for the next team, comment down below, leave a like, subscribe to my channel to help me out. Almost hitting that 100 where I can make my own URL. Can't wait for that. But no, I hope you're still staying safe out there. That's all from me here. I'm Joho. You stay classy, YouTube.